All right, welcome in. This is the Individual Skills Hockey Podcast, a podcast that aims to bring quality education to youth hockey coaches, parents, and players with the mission of having a positive impact on the crazy youth hockey world. I'm your host, Miles Deeth, and today we are so lucky to have Dani Cameranesi in the studio. Dani, thanks for doing this. How are you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So first female guest on the podcast, which is very exciting. And full disclosure, we know each other pretty well, kind of growing up in Wayzata, and I was a year ahead of you, but we actually were never teammates on an actual team. But obviously, with your resume and everything that you've accomplished, we're very lucky to talk to you about all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start kind of in the middle of your hockey story with some University of Minnesota stuff. So obviously, you had a ton of success at Blake playing high school hockey. You played 5 years there, right?
Yep, 8th grade to senior year, yeah.
Okay, so when did the Gophers come calling or knocking or sending letters? I don't know how it worked back then, but how did that all start?
I think back then it was like to the point where they could reach out pretty early on. I think maybe like freshmen or somehow they could get in contact with coaches and such. So Minnesota was always really high on my list. Obviously, they were extremely successful. There were a bunch of other teams on the list as well. But my dad, actually, you probably know my dad pretty well too. But he's a stickler on certain things, so he made me wait until I was older to like make my decision because truly no freshman or 8th grader or anything I don't think should be making such a big decision about their future, I guess, that early on. So I didn't end up actually committing anywhere until the end of my junior year, which was like pretty late and pretty crazy. I think most people had committed prior to that. So I was one of the last ones.
And was there any serious doubt on where you wanted to end up? Or I know it's always usually everyone's dream to be a Gopher, but you never know.
Yeah, funny enough for me, it was actually a dream of mine to be a Badger. So I know that's kind of like a no since we're pretty big rivals. But my dad was born in Wisconsin, and you probably remember him wearing his Wisconsin Badger jacket all around the hockey rink for my brother and I. So
Yep.
it was always a pretty big dream of mine actually to go to Wisconsin. And I know like Coach Frost didn't think he had a chance getting me because my dad was always in the stands wearing that thing. But after I went and visited and met all the players, and at that point in time, it had kind of transitioned over from Wisconsin winning a bunch of national championships to then Minnesota. So that was definitely a big factor for me too. But it was really more, I think, the culture at Minnesota and a lot of like the players that went there. And when I visited, just like the way that it felt, I wanted to be close to home, and I knew that I wanted to be a Gopher after that.
Yeah, because down in those times, Wisconsin obviously had success. Was there any other schools that were powerhouses in, I guess, the late 2000s growing up?
Yeah, I think majority for me, I always knew I wanted to play in the WCHA. I felt that was the strongest league and the best opportunity, I think, for me to grow and eventually reach my dreams of playing at the Olympics. But I know like Harvard and BC and a lot of those Boston teams are obviously always in the running too. But having gone to Blake, I wanted to go to a bigger school for college instead of that kind of like small private school type feeling. So that would kind of factored into my decision as well.
Nice. So the U won titles in 2012 and 2013. So that was what, your junior and senior year of high school. So going into the U as a freshman, did that make it intimidating to walk into a program with back-to-back titles under their belt, or how did it feel joining such a successful program?
Yeah, I think the most intimidating part that wasn't mentioned was my senior year. So 2013 was also the year that they went undefeated. So all of us freshmen definitely felt that intimidation factor and just like nerves, because we knew at some point the streak was probably going to break. But we didn't really want it to be because of us, or like feel like it was our fault, since we were obviously the common denominator for what changed over the years past. And I think it was just kind of looming over the team in general. Like every game we played, or every weekend we played in the beginning, was like, when's the streak gonna end? I think it was like 13 or 14 games in. Um, and we were very grateful, honestly, when it happened. It is very stressful, I think, walking or like coming into college in general and just trying to adjust to the pace. And then, like you said, on top of that, coming to such a successful program. But I personally like felt at home there and knew that was the kind of like struggle and battle that I wanted to go through, and it would be able to provide the most growth for me.
Awesome. So that kind of leans into my next question. Because the U is such a sought after program for so many girls, and on the men's side too, I think you end up getting a lot of players that are the best players at their community growing up. As you know, at the next level, there's different roles that need to be filled. Not everyone can be a first line center. So talk about the process of that, coming into a program where your whole life you were the best player from your community for most of the girls. How did that process go of keeping a good culture and then also filling roles that needed to be filled?
Yeah, I think that can be a struggle for a lot of people when you make that jump to college, and honestly, when you make the jump to any, I guess, advancing league or that you jump into, is like you said, not everyone can be the best on every team. And I think one of like the biggest things too, especially at Minnesota, you're getting a lot of people that are from Minnesota as well. So you all know each other, and it's definitely an adjustment for some people. And I think I went in knowing that I was coming onto a team of like the best girls in the world too, so I wasn't going to be first or second line right away, and there's still so much that you have to learn too. I don't think I knew how to actually play hockey going into college. I had an understanding, obviously, but had never really done some serious like D zone and systems and stuff like that. So I think coming in, like everyone just has to be a sponge. And I had, I guess, a little bit of hockey IQ on my back, which helped. But I think people kind of fall into their spots pretty quickly. You figure out where you stand, I guess, and then are able to work your way up from there, and essentially have to just like keep proving yourself each level that you advance on. And a lot of us, like I said, we're from Minnesota, so we had played together. So I think like that team chemistry was there from the start. So it didn't really affect us. And having been such a successful program, if a team wants to win, a lot of times you set your like personal sights aside, and it doesn't matter what line you're on. If you want to win a national championship, we're in a team sport. It's not just us. You just kind of have to work around that and figure it out.
No, you make a good point, and I think you see it all over, on the men's and women's side of when you're the best player on a team, like throughout youth hockey, it's sort of tough to like develop that hockey sense or like responsibility in the game, because like frankly, like probably didn't need it at Blake, because you were just so much better than the competition. There was probably some bad habits or some, just like, it wasn't quite real hockey yet for you because of the ability that you had. So I think you make a good point there.
I mean, I still did a pretty good job, I think, passing and using my teammates, but it was definitely like I was a center in high school, and that was more because I had speed and I could literally pick the puck up from behind the net and go end to end if I wanted to. And after that, I guess that was kind of a wake up call, as I always thought I was a center, and then I got to college and I'm like, I am not a center. And Frosty kind of figured that out pretty quickly. But yeah, I felt like I was always pretty good at using my teammates, but like you said, there are some skill sets that I had that definitely were not going to translate over into college or any other level that I wanted to play. So some things you have to get rid of. But I think luckily for me, growing up and playing boys, I never really was the best person on the team. So I kind of like had to figure that out early on. And I still probably the only time that I was one of the best was in high school. And
Yeah.
from there on out, I was more of I worked my butt off and used my skills and my knowledge of hockey to kind of get to where I got to eventually.
We're going to get to the boys hockey thing later, but so you won the national championship in 2015 and 2016. We could spend probably an hour talking about different stuff about those 2 years and how memorable that was. But as you look back on those seasons now, what sticks out to you the most on kind of the main reasons why those teams were successful?
Yeah, I think it's funny. My class, or I guess anyone who was on that freshman team with me too, would probably say that my freshman team was like the most talented team that I had been on. And we made it to the championship game and just kind of fell apart at the end that year. And so I think it's just like interesting having won championships at different levels and obviously with different teams. And I think one thing that definitely sticks out sophomore and junior year, which we kind of touched on a little bit, was that like kind of camaraderie we had in the locker room. I think was so much more important that year. We, like you said, it was like one of the best programs in the nation, if not the best program in the nation at the time. So we knew we had some pretty incredible players on the ice. But if you don't have that bond in the locker room and you're not really willing to go and battle on the line for your teammates, I think that can really make a difference. And fortunately for us, I think goaltending also makes a huge difference. And we had some pretty dang good goaltenders too, so that definitely helped out.
Talk about the Coach Frost and some of the other coaches that you had at during your time at the U and what they meant to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they definitely taught me how to actually play hockey and systems, and my knowledge and IQ of the game, I think, is what has, like I said, carried me as far as it has today. And then on top of that, you're in college; it's your first time being away from home, even though I was still pretty close to home, but away from home, so you kind of rely on them as mentors as well, and to help you grow into um, I guess kind of who I am today, and can sit me down and yell at me when I need to be yelled at, and be there if there's anything I guess going on personally in my life. And that was super helpful. And I've been really fortunate to have some pretty amazing coaches over the years, because and some bad ones like we all have, but I think having a really good coaches can definitely make a difference in someone's experience at college, and even more so, I think, um, how they are as a person, if they love the game, that kind of stuff, and they help you grow on and off the ice.
So Coach Frost was, I don't even know. I mean, when did he start at the U? Was he well into his tenure when you started there?
That's a great question. I think he was still kind of um, more towards the beginning of his tenure at that point in time, but he very quickly grew a successful team and successful program. So we knew that going in, and he's just like a really personable person as well. Super easy to get along with, and as I said, obviously you must be pretty knowledgeable to win that many championships as well. So we're very fortunate, and Minnesota's still very fortunate to have him as a coach.
Who are some of the assistants, and like, did you have turnover with the assistants at with your time there, or did you have the same ones the whole time?
Yeah, so him and Joel Johnson were there together the entire time that I was. He was the D coach, and then Nadine Muzeral was more of like the forward coach with Frosty um, throughout. I think maybe through my freshman to junior year, and then Bethany Browson ended up taking over Nadine's spot when she went to be the head coach at Ohio State. And Bethany, she was my captain as a senior when I was a freshman at the University of Minnesota.
Oh, so that helps to have a familiar face and someone a little younger.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, it was super helpful because she had obviously recently been in the position that we all were in too. So I feel like being able to kind of balance that out between Frosty and JJ, and then having some new insight and some fresh eyes coming in, I think was always helpful.
Cool. All right. So I wanted to move along a little bit on some post-college stuff. But first, you played for Team USA in the under 18s twice, I believe, during your time in high school. I'm curious on does making those teams have an impact or set you up down the road to be in a better position to make the big team?
Yeah. I think, speaking from my personal experience, I definitely think it did help. And just being able to put the jersey on too and play in those tournaments. I took silver both years, so I got my first taste of what I knew I didn't want to happen in the big moments. But I think I also have a number of teammates on the Olympic teams who hadn't made those teams when they were younger as well, or weren't even invited to the camps. So I think it really just depends on the position you're in. There might be some people who've been there from U18s all the way up, and like I said, someone who didn't make their first team until the Olympics or a world's championship or something like that. So I think it is helpful just to, like I said, to be able to see. I think for me personally, going to those camps in St. Cloud and playing with other girls from across the country and just kind of seeing some pretty amazing talent outside of the state of Minnesota too, was really helpful just to get that kind of first taste of wow, I am in a pretty big pond here, even though Minnesota is a state of hockey, and a lot of Minnesotans I've played with throughout my tenure as well. But yeah, I think it just really depends. In my case, I think it helped for me.
Awesome. So you finish your hockey career at the U in 2017, correct?
Yep, 2017.
And so that next year coming up was an Olympic year. I'm curious on the process on how that all works on when they select the Olympic team and when tryouts are and everything like that.
Yeah, so that that year, every year's kind of been unique that I've tried out for it. And I think a lot of times it depends on personal preference for the coach, and that's changed year over year for the whole time I've been a part of the process, at least. And for that year, that Olympic year in 2018, so we had tryouts in 2017, pretty soon after Worlds. All of that timing's a little bit off for me because I got injured my senior year. So I was out for the second half of the season and was just trying to battle back in order to even give myself an opportunity to attend tryouts. But I'm pretty sure they were in probably April is when tryouts were. And then they picked the team pretty soon after. So that year they had decided that they wanted to choose their roster to train with the whole year. So 23 players they chose, and those 23 players would be going to the Olympics. They ended up actually making some switches midway through our Olympic year, but we came together then in September and then trained together in Florida that year. And then obviously went to the Olympics January, February. And then 2022 was a little different, and it was more like what they had done in the past, where we took more players and then made cuts and selections throughout the year. I forget when the actual first tryouts for that were, but Yeah, they chose however many people to join residency, which is actually in Blaine, Minnesota. Go there in September, and then I think they had like 2 or 3 cuts that they made throughout the year. So both experiences are kind of like you aren't there until you're actually there too, at the Olympics and actually on the team, because you never know like kind of what can happen before that. People get injured, they decide they want to make a change halfway type deal. So every year's been different. This next year is going to be even more different now with the league. I'm pretty sure they'll continue playing in their seasons and then come together, I would imagine, pretty soon before the next Olympics and figure it all out from there.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting because I'm sure there was players that were done with their college career and they were faced with a choice, quite frankly. Like professional women's hockey wasn't where it is today, I think, viability wise, and they had to make a decision on whether or not to continue and try to pursue this. But it sounds like in your 2017 situation, that selection process happened pretty quick, which I'm assuming helped some people out with that decision.
Yeah, and leading up to that year too, we were kind of in a battle, if you or negotiations with USA Hockey as well to get paid, and that had gone through in 2017 as well. So yeah, at that time it was kind of like if you had your sights on the Olympics in whatever country you're from, that was kind of our NHL, if you will, at that point. So if you were in the program, like I had been to like national or not national world championships and 4 nations prior, so I knew that I was like at least in the player pool and in the system. So that made you kind of want to keep pressing on, but others, yeah, like you said, had to make a decision if they wanted to have a career and do something else that they were able to make some money from. So luckily now things have changed and have slowly gotten better and better each year. So people can actually set their sights on earning money playing hockey for females, and they don't. Some pretty amazing players honestly had to hang up the skates, I think, too early, and now that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that side of it in the past because they probably just think of the men's game, and there's been NHL players and past Olympics, and you just get picked and you head over to the Olympics on the men's side. So it seems there's more of a process to it on the women's side in the past. So but moving along, I'll ask you the same question about your national titles for the gold medal run. What are the biggest things that stick out to you on why you were able to do that as a team and how cool it was, and just anything that sticks out, memorable moments or anything?
Yeah, I think again, I'll kind of echo what I said at the University of Minnesota. I think we were lacking a lot that year, and maybe we didn't stack up very well against Canada either. We had in residency too, we've had exhibition games against Canada that we play, 7 games. We won the first one that year, and or maybe not even the first. I think we won one potentially and lost 6 out of the 7. So we weren't feeling great going into the Olympics against them. Um, Maybe a little bit underprepared in certain ways, but that was like another time where I think I just saw our group of girls kind of band together and just figure it out somehow. Yeah, and overtime and shootout, whatever, people might not think that an Olympic gold medal game should go into a shootout or be ended that way. I might be one of them that thinks that, but it's hard for me to say that when we did win. So that was, like I said, I think just like in the locker room, for us, I don't know anymore. I guess if it's the same in guys hockey, but it's been like a pretty crucial point in our game, I think, so far, and being able to like rely on everyone inside the locker room and just kind of put it all on the line. But everyone will say it was just kind of this weird feeling that we all had.
Did you play them twice in the tournament? I forget.
Yeah, we did.
And well, did you lose the first game?
I'm pretty sure we lost. Yeah, I think we
Okay.
lost the first game. I haven't watched it. People think it's crazy. I haven't watched any game back because I'm so critical of myself. I don't want to watch or like ruin that like Olympic experience or gold medal game for me. I watch film when I'm there, but it was on at my husband's house the other day, and they're like, "We should watch it." I was like, "If you guys turn it on, I'm leaving the room. I'm not doing that." But I'm pretty positive we lost the first one. And that definitely, I think, helped put a bigger chip on our shoulder too.
Well, yeah, and sometimes that's helpful to expose what you need to make adjustments on the fly. So, all right. So, Olympic Games lightning round questions. What was your favorite sport to watch when you had a different sport to watch when you had downtime?
Different sport. I think all of like the snowboarding and skiing ones are like absolutely insane. But we got pretty close with the curling team, and I really enjoyed watching them. I think that's awesome. Now I'm a big curling fan.
Hardest player to play against on Team Canada?
It's gonna be such a generic answer, but you got to go with Poulin because I think she's just like such a big threat whenever the puck's on her stick, especially in those big games too. That like she's strong, she can score, and you always just get a little bit nervous when the puck is on her stick. She's ended our like games in overtime and too many times, so definitely her.
Favorite teammate that you've had throughout the whole time with wearing a USA sweater?
Oh geez, you're gonna get all my other friends mad, you know. I think
You got to have a little controversy to up the ratings.
yeah, I guess so. I've been fortunate where I've played with like a lot of my best friends too, and a number of them have been in my wedding, and the majority of them have attended my wedding too. But I think someone that I'm like always the closest with and could always like talk to throughout my experiences was Lee Steckline. I feel like we share a lot of similarities, I guess, in our personalities and have been able to kind of like decompress when we need to. But
Awesome.
Hannah's gonna be mad at me.
Everyone will be tagged when I post it.
Of course, I know.
I'm going to tag every single person. All right, so we could spend. I just am really curious about the professional game right now. Just talk about the process over the last 4 or 5 years, everything that happened, and like what's the biggest thing that you wish might have been handled differently, or maybe you're really satisfied with where things are at, but just talk about a little bit what has occurred in the pro game over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, definitely satisfied with where it's at now, and being able to just like see it from the outside, I think has been like pretty cool. But there's obviously been like so much hard work and a lot that's gone into it in general that maybe a lot of people don't know. This has kind of been in the making or in the works for, like you said, 4 or 5 years. I think it was really crucial to have just one league. I think like splitting it up and too many times before has just kind of like ruined it essentially. Like there's not 2 different NHLs. Obviously you have like feeder programs which help grow and produce players going into it. But I don't think there's ever going to be a chance without that prior to. And then I think a lot of times in like previous leagues that we saw, which people maybe dedicated the success of the league to like how much like certain players were making and everything. But I think especially starting out, like kind of have to spread the wealth a little bit more too, to make sure that, like you said, people want to pursue professional hockey and be able to play and have a living off of it, and not just have super the really talented players making a lot of money and the others not making as much and having to have other jobs. So I think this is the first time that pretty much, everyone in that league has one job, and that job is to play hockey, and that's always been the goal. And I'm just really excited to see it grow from here, especially from the outside and having some intel on the inside. But it's been pretty exciting to see like the puck drop for some of those first games, and I think it's only going to get better.
What do you think the biggest thing is, the crucial thing that will lead to the success of the league over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, just making it professional, like the other professional leagues. Like people had to pick up their lives and move to different places to play for like the teams that they were drafted on or that they were on, and there's going to be trades and stuff like that. Whereas before it was kind of like, okay, there's a team in Minnesota, there's a team in Boston, and like 3 or 4 teams throughout Canada, and it's kind of like if you lived there, it made it pretty easy, and they had practices at nighttime so people could work beforehand. And now like their sole purpose is dedicated to playing hockey. So as long as I think they're treated as professionals, I think the aptitude for the game and little girls seeing them play, I think will do it enough justice in itself.
And will you be at the XL Energy Center this Saturday for puck drop?
Yeah, I've actually been started doing some stuff for Valley Sports, so yeah, I will be there, and I'll try to be there at as many games as possible. Try to get my friends to give me some tickets, but I think they're all taken, so I got to work the game. Yeah, I'll definitely be there.
I need some tickets too.
I know. Maybe as being our former coach, we can figure something out, but no, I'm really excited. I think there's just going to be a lot of excitement around it, and a lot of, honestly, really just to see all the young girls finally be able to see something other than, like I said, national team USA stuff, and be able to kind of pursue that passion and see what they could potentially be when they get older is going to be the coolest part about it all.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so like I said, I was going to kind of go in reverse order here. I wanted to hit on some early days growing up playing hockey. What's your first memory of getting into the game and falling in love with it?
It's always a hard question. I've been talking with some people. I feel like my memory is terrible lately. But honestly, I just like remember, and it's always been my favorite time, is just being out in the backyard with my brother. We had Tony, who had also played hockey, and he had a pretty amazing career too. But just when we were younger, just being able to grab our skates and our stick. We had a neighbor who flooded the pond, which was super helpful for us too. But just being able to be out there and be creative, I think that's when I actually kind of fell in love with the game. And then my parents just kept putting me in hockey after that. And it's always been kind of when I've been at my happiest and been able to be my most free, until it kind of wasn't, as it got to be a job a little bit more towards the end, which is kind of why I wanted to hang up the skates, but always just outside in the winter. That's my favorite.
Huge question here. Which hockey player in your family were Ken and Tess harder on, Tony or yourself?
Gosh, you would probably disagree with me. I would probably say me, because they had to be harder on me, because in the beginning, my dad used to call me an orange cone because I wouldn't like to skate very hard, whereas my brother always had that internal motivation. And I think they kind of had to pull it out of me, which, if you know me now, is kind of crazy to think about. But I would say me, but my dad was pretty hard on us both. So
okay,
I'm grateful for it.
Related to that, I was a teammate of Tony's, obviously growing up, one of the most hardworking players I've ever played with. Do you think you're harder working than him?
No. But I do definitely owe my work ethic to him. I think growing up and being able to like see him, like you said, and see everything he did. He was always outside in the garage shooting pucks, in his rollerblades. And personally for me, being able to like train with him in the summers and kind of like see all of the hard work that he put in, because I'm sure he would say it. He was never seen as being like the best on his team. I think when he was younger, growing up, and he always just like when he's just like that guy that when he puts his mind to something, like he just sits down and does it. And I think for a little bit there when I was younger, I was in it for the fun, and then I realized it could be more. And I definitely would not have, I think, made it to the Olympics if Tony wasn't my brother. I will honestly say that. So give him some credit where credit's due for sure.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. All right. So I know you've done a lot of coaching with your own camps up north and helping out at Wayzata Youth Hockey. What's your opinion on like the state of girls hockey in the state, and what do you think needs to be improved, if anything, and anything like that?
Hard hitting question. No, I've really enjoyed my experiences for sure, being able to like coach. I personally like doing more of the skills stuff than I do actually like coaching a team. I was also a part-time assistant when I was still playing for Blake at one point. I think there's a lot of politics, especially in Minnesota hockey, which is what makes me, I guess, not enjoy being like an actual coach of a team as much. But I think like had talked about, I grew up playing boys hockey, and I didn't feel like were as many opportunities, even though there still were a lot more at that point in time on the girls' side. But now I think it's been cool to see girls be able to like go into girls hockey and be able to grow that way and have a lot more opportunities that weren't necessarily there previously.
Cool.
Still a lot more room for growth though, I think.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right. So last kind of like random question. What's your opinion on having female coaches coach a female team? Do you think it's necessary, and why?
Yeah. I think it's really cool and important, like I said, even for girls watching you play, to be able to like see that and be able to kind of pursue that passion or where they want to go. For me personally, I don't think it ever made a difference if it was male or female. I just wanted the best coach. So whoever that is, like I don't care what that looks like. If you're gonna like push the team to be the best and help our team win, I think that's the most important thing for me. So whether that's male or female, I think now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever had a female head coach. So it would be nice to see that at some point. But yeah, for me, if you're the best and you can help our team win, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I talked about this with Brad Podiak, the new girls coach at Wayzata, and he made a really good point. It's somewhat of a numbers game. I think that like the more girls hockey grows, the more opportunities are going to be filled by females. And like you said, your opinion, that doesn't matter, but I think we will continue to see it grow, even just naturally. So
Yeah, well, like you said, the more like young girls that are in it and grow up playing hockey, and you're already seeing it, I think, throughout professional teams as well. And there's some like pretty incredible females who are crushing it. But personally, for me, sometimes for me, it's not. Although I've been a really good player, would I make the greatest coach? Maybe not, probably not. But there's some other great people out there who definitely deserve the opportunity, and I can't wait to see that happen.
awesome. Well, I will let you go. This was awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Again, if you have any questions for Dani, if you're a young girl out there, or a parent of a girl, and you have any questions, just reach out, hockeyops@wayzatahockey.org. And again, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. You forgot to mention too that you coached a lot of us throughout the way, and we're very grateful to have people like you and Pat and individual skills around for, like you said, those times when we didn't have the professional league. You guys helped coach us throughout the weeks and some pretty terrible times early in the morning. So we're really grateful for you guys too and helping.
Well, I will add, I do drop that little tidbit of knowledge every time Olympic game comes on NHL Network or something.
Well, good.
But
You deserve it. So,
but no, it was honestly the most enjoyable skill sessions that I've ever been a part of, just because of the, like you said, professionalism that you guys brought to the rink, and that's really fun to be around. So
yeah, we're very grateful for you. So thanks for that, and thanks for having me today too.
you bet. Thanks. This is awesome.